Greetings and welcome to In-Depth. I'm Dike Rostant. Looking forward to this conversation because there's a lot of talk about reading. So, lecturer in reading education and literacy studies, as well as reading specialist, Dr. Paulson Skerrit, he joins us to share more. Dr. Skerrit, how are you doing?
I'm fine, thanks. Thanks, Dike. Thanks for this opportunity.
Really happy to have you join us because there is this Masters in Reading Education that is supposed to be starting in September. Please go tell me a little bit about it. Thank you.
Good. So the Masters in Reading, as you know, reading is a complex linguistic achievement, and not many people easily achieve that because of different challenges. So we need sometimes teachers to receive specialized training. This is done all over the world, where teachers pursue postgraduate training in reading literacy so that they can really not just address students who might be challenged with reading, but even the typically developing students who needs to have the best of instruction, what we call evidence-based, where you have best practice being brought into the classroom, either working with large classes, small groups, or individuals. And that's what this ML in reading is supposed to be doing.
And let me play devil's advocate a little bit, because we are in a society where outside of biology, chemistry, many other things that would be taught at the primary school level, what are the filters used to allow people to go to secondary school from primary school are literacy and numeracy. So is it something, what are some of those gaps? If a course like this exists, what are some of the things that people can be helped with, educators can be helped with in terms of helping people learn to read?
So as you know, we have a clinical university called PEDIC where we do a lot of assessments. Reading assessments is one of them. What we're finding most times when students are assessed, the problems they're having, one is their phonological awareness, the ability to identify and manipulate the speech sounds. So we grew up in homes where students speak Creole, or Trinidad English Creole, complex, fully developed language, but then they're expected to read and write in standard English. And standard English, as you know, we have 44 phonemes or sounds, speech sounds in English with only 26 letters of the alphabet. So that it means that those letters make different sounds depending on where they occur in text. Students struggle with identifying those sounds and understanding the patterns that they can notice when those letters are going to make those different sounds, whether it's going to be a short A, a long A, or the short. So we feel that teachers need specific training in how to develop the phonological awareness skills. So can my students identify and manipulate those sounds, and then map those sounds, what we call orthographic mapping it to the letters that represent those sounds. So that's one of the major challenges we have with our students. The other problem is the issue of fluency and comprehension. So students often struggle with reading fluency. And fluency has to do not just with how fast I can read something. It doesn't have to do only with my being able to identify the words correctly, but being able to read in a conversational manner that demonstrates I'm understanding what I'm reading, and that supports comprehension. And then the final thing I mentioned was the issue of comprehension, which is based on vocabulary. We're finding that a lot of students, because they're growing up in homes where they may not have access to being flooded with language, a range of vocabulary. So if you don't know the words and what those words mean, that's an immediate block to comprehension. So developing vocabulary skills, developing comprehension and the range of comprehension. I don't want students to only be able to recall what's happening in text. I want them to be able to make the different kinds of inferences like evaluating, synthesizing. So the ML in reading is going to provide students, the teachers who will enroll in this program with those skills to be able to develop students' phonological awareness, their phonic skills, their ability to recognize words, to develop their vocabulary skills, both teach them how to do it and independently develop their vocabulary and how to develop their fluency and comprehension. So it sounds like a lot, but those are the dimensions of reading, and all of them are critical to the goal of reading, which is comprehension.
I have a long-winded question. Brace yourself, Dr. Skerrit. what kind of level are you pitching this at in terms of people at what level? And I ask the question because sometimes it feels as though these are the rules that are being taught, but then there are so many exceptions. It seems as though some of those exceptions, there are actually rules to them, but if you don't learn them, it feels as though it is very hard for you to say, okay, well, this is what I'm supposed to do at this juncture. So what level are we thinking about people you're trying to have in the cohort?
So to get into this program, you need to at least have a Bachelor of Education. And people may have some other combinations of qualifications, but that's critical, at least having a Bachelor of Education. Now, you mentioned that there seem to be so many exceptions with English, but teachers need to recognize that even with the exceptions, there are patterns. So even though we often say English doesn't play fair, and so we need to help students to appreciate how English doesn't play fair and what they have to look out for, even when it doesn't, like all of those high frequency words that oftentimes don't follow the phonetic rules, even when they don't follow them. Good teachers with a proper lens on how to do this will be able to break them up based on what works, what are the patterns that exist, and be able to teach that. And so when teachers come in, both working at the primary school level and the secondary school level, because we do have a lot of secondary school students who are struggling with reading. So while we would hope, as I spoke with one senior member of the Ministry of Education, we really want to target the problem at the primary school level. But even secondary school teachers, we want to come and consider doing this master's so that they could take the lead in organizing reading instruction and the secondary school to address the problems there before it's too late when the students take CSEC, but particularly for those in the primary school system to come and get this master's so that they could address it there. And so students could not struggle as much as they move through the system.
All right, so we're going to take a break a little earlier than I would have expected to, but that's because I don't want to curtail the answer that you're going to give me to the question. So stay with us. We're speaking with Dr. Paulson Skerrit about a new master's in reading education. We come back with more. Welcome back. We are speaking with Dr. Paulson Skerrit. Masters in Reading Education is what is on tap. And you spoke about individuals or prerequisites to join the masters. Dr. Skerrit, is it a matter of having school supervisors as well? I ask the question because, sometimes to say, okay, well, this person is doing something right or this person is doing something, they could do it a little differently. You also want the people who are supervising them to know, to have that capacity to be able to share. So is there that level as well, not necessarily training the trainer, but where are you grabbing that cohort from?
So we talk about teachers, primary school teachers. You're right, people who are supervising those teachers. So generally, this program will lead to people qualifying as reading specialists, reading literacy specialists. That means that in either primary or secondary school, they'll be able to focus on developing the reading proficiency of students. They could organize reading programs in the school because one of the courses, for example, would be developing school and classroom-based reading programs. There'll be a program that will be dedicated toward literacy coaching, so that persons can, maybe at the school supervision level, work toward coaching others into developing their ability to deliver reading instruction. The program is built for administrators, so school principals, people who may have senior positions when it comes to reading, like reading curriculum officers. They may want to take advantage of this. But generally, teachers in the primary school system and even the secondary school system would want to consider coming to do this program because it will give them the training that they can become leaders when it comes to teaching reading, but also arm themselves to be more successful in teaching reading in their own classrooms. So earlier I mentioned the entry requirements. So we have in-service graduate teachers who would have completed a Bachelor of Education. and they want to enhance their qualifications and skills in the area of teaching, reading, and language development. But also individuals, including administrators, as you rightly mentioned, who are working in any educational field, public or private, once they have their graduates with a bachelor's or even a postgraduate degree, so they may have a master's already, and they could come back and get this reading specific master's. That the applications have opened since January 6th, and the deadline is July 31st of this year for the cohort starting in September.
With that in mind, we take into consideration the context that many people will be working in the classroom during the day. So what is the delivery time like?
Good. So the School of Education, our master's courses are all on evenings. So they normally start at 4:30 and they go until 7:30. So that means, and our programs are blended. So it means students don't have to come to campus every week. There may be several weeks in the program where the course will be delivered using Zoom. The university has now officially adopted Zoom as its retail platform. So many of the weeks, and we understand the challenges that learners have with working full-time and then coming to university. So being able to go to their homes and engage with us online. Of course, this program has a strong clinical component. That's one of the unique things about this program. In addition to the research courses, there are 2 additional research modules, one on action research and one on working with students, specifically single subject design. So you have these students who are challenged and you want to be able to measure their progress through the various interventions. So these additional modules would really help the enrollees to work with real students, and we get supervision, a clinical environment to see them put into practice the things that they have been learning, so that we're sure when they leave here, there's a seamless entry into working with students and other teachers in the area of reading literacy.
And I appreciate that clinical aspect of it, because one of the things I wanted to ask when you were talking about delivering reading instructions is how fluid do you hope that people who enroll are able to emerge from the class with? Because sometimes it seems as though I learned it this way, this is the way I'm going to teach. If your learning style does not mesh with this, well, then you are going to fall through the cracks. So how does that clinical aspect impact the delivering the reading instructions?
So I'm bringing into this program some of my own training. I remember at the University of Tennessee, when I was doing my reading courses, we were in rooms working with students. Each of these rooms had 2-way mirrors, so you had our supervisors looking at us, interacting. So they actually get to see us practicing, lots of video recordings of the work we did, assessing students, and then working with them, at a small groups or individuals on an individual basis to address their challenges. And so much of that is going to be reflected in our clinical approach to the practicum component of this program, where we'll actually be able to sit with students, observe them, provide feedback throughout that critical practicum. And then, of course, they will be able to write up and trace the progress of their students from assessment to what I did to work with these students and the gains that I made because of applying evidence-based strategies in my practicum. So we can see them, there will be that closing the gap between knowing what to do and actually being able to do it under intense supervision.
Dr. Skerrit, I find you started to talk fanciness a little bit in terms of the University of Tennessee. Will that mean that the teachers who pass through, or the persons who pass through this program, have the wherewithal within themselves, or will they need slightly different infrastructure scaffolded around them to better enable them imparting this new learning that they've gotten?
Everything is built into the program. So we will be doing a lot of modeling and demonstrating our strategies for the students. Some of the courses in this program, we've actually tested them out before. We've taught them as electives. And of course, that has allowed us to make modifications. So when the program was actually going through for its approval, those things were built into the program. In 2017, the International Literacy Association, they revised the whole principles and components for teaching of literacy. So it's called the standards, the standards for literacy teaching. And we were able to use, I attended that conference when that was released, and I was able to use the revised international literacy standards to develop this program. So we're getting the best of both worlds with this program, with the new literacy standards reflected in all the components of the program. So if I could just talk a little bit about what the program involves. So there are 42 credits. There are 3 compulsory core courses. The first course on theoretical foundations of reading will look at those theories and models of reading. That's really important for teachers to grasp that. It's a heavy course, but it's going to take them through, for example, the history of reading research, and then look at various aspects of theoretical constructs and models with regard to reading instruction. And then from that, there will be 2 research courses that will allow them to look at the ability to do both qualitative and quantitative type research when it comes to reading. And then we get into the specialization courses like reading diagnosis, intervention, teaching reading in the content areas, digital literacy, because now reading has changed. It's not just reading in print. So special skill sets for students to be able to not just read using the tablets and computers, but all the digital literacy skills that students need to take advantage of the affordances that come with technology. Setting up school-based reading programs, supervision and leadership in reading. And then we have those modules we talked about that will really give the students that support for their practicum, and the final practicum component.
And I'm very glad that you outlined it like that, because I think sometimes when people say, okay, well, this program is in its nascent stages, is now starting, they are a bit hesitant to say, well, I'm going to be the guinea pigs in this. But in the 1.5 minutes we have remaining, please help continue to smooth that away, and also answer the question. If someone listens or looks at the course outline and say, okay, well, I want to do some of these electives, will they be able to do so?
Great. So actually, we have, in the past, a version of this program was run many years ago. The government had asked us to train a cohort of teachers, and they were all employed by the Ministry of Education as coaches, reading coaches. And so after a number of years, maybe over 12, 13 years, we have revised the program based on all the new things we've come to learn. And so they're not guinea pigs. We have a lot of experience delivering this program. But we are making individual courses available, open to persons to come to take those courses so they can develop their skills. Let's say I want to work with assessing and working with students, providing interventions in reading. You can come and take that course. If I want to do something on teaching reading in the content areas, so I'm a secondary school teacher and I want to be able to better teach my students how to read in the specific subjects that I'm teaching, you could come and do that course. So that too will be possible. And persons can go on the postgraduate page in UWI, and they can go through the application process, or they can contact me with my email, paulson.skerrit@sta.uwi.edu for more information.
And that Skerrit has 1 T at the end of it.
Yes, and remember the dot in between my first name and surname.
All right, then we want to thank you so much, Dr. Paulson Skerrit, reading specialist, as well as lecturer in reading education and literacy studies. And on behalf of the entire TTT News team, I'm Dike Rostant. This has been In Depth with me. Thank you so much for joining us.